Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story 1. I've worked the night shift at Eddie's Diner for nearly 5 years. It's one of those places that time forgot. Checkered floors that never quite shine. Booths with red vinyl seats cracked from decades of use, and a neon sign that hums like an old drunk trying to remember the words to a song. We're open 24/7, and the regulars are exactly what you'd expect. Truckers with sunken eyes, insomniacs who nurse coffee like it's the last thing tethering them to reality, the occasional couple too drunk to drive, but not drunk enough to make out in the parking lot. I've seen weird things, fights, breakups, a guy who came in barefoot and ordered a plate of bacon before falling asleep in his eggs. But nothing prepared me for him. It was a Tuesday night, or Wednesday morning, depending on how you look at it. 2:30 a.m. The rain was coming down hard, the kind that makes the street lights blur and turns the whole world into a bad watercolor painting. I was refilling the napkin dispensers when the bell above the door jingled. He walked in, tall, thin, drenched from head to toe. His black suit clung to him like a second skin, water dripping from the cuffs of his sleeves, pooling on the checkered floor. His hair slicked back, dark as oil, was wet too, but not like rain wet, more like drowned. He moved slowly, deliberately, like someone walking through a dream, and without a word, he slid into the booth in the farthest corner, where the flickering light barely reached. Here's the thing, I knew that booth. It was the one people avoided. I don't know why. Maybe it was the light, the way it buzzed like it was struggling to stay alive. Maybe it was the draft that seemed to come from nowhere, making the air around it just a little colder. Or maybe it was the fact that every now and then someone would sit there and their reflection in the window wouldn't quite match up. I gave it a few minutes before walking over. He was staring at the menu, fingers resting on the laminated surface like he was reading Braille. "Can I get you something?" I asked. His head lifted. His eyes were hollow. Not empty. Not blind. Just hollow. Like looking into a well that goes down so far you can't see the bottom. He didn't blink. Didn't speak. Just shook his head once and went back to staring at the menu. I backed off. Something about him made my skin crawl, but hey, it was none of my business. Maybe he was a drifter. Maybe he was waiting for someone. Maybe he was just another lost soul looking for a place to sit. But then he came back. Every Tuesday night. Same time, same booth, same soaked suit. Never spoke, never ordered. Just sat there, running his fingers over the menu, eyes fixed on something that wasn't there. The first few times, I tried again, offering coffee, pie, a sandwich on the house. He never answered. And his clothes? They never changed. Always the same black suit, slightly damp. Always the same slick back hair, still dripping. Even on nights when the sky was clear, when the pavement outside was bone dry. By the third month, I stopped trying. We all did. The waitresses learned to avoid his booth. The cook pretended he didn't exist. The only acknowledgement he ever got was from the janitor, who cursed under his breath every Wednesday morning while mopping up the puddle of water left behind. And then, one night, curiosity got the best of me. I was closing up, and Linda, one of the older waitresses, was counting tips at the counter. She'd been working there since before I was born. And if anyone knew about the strange things that happened in Eddie's, it was her. "Hey, Linda," I said, leaning against the counter. "That guy in the suit. You ever notice he—" I didn't even finish before her face went pale. "You're joking," she whispered. I shook my head. "He comes in every Tuesday, sits in the same booth, never orders." Linda swallowed hard, then grabbed my wrist. Her fingers were ice cold. She turned and pointed at the framed picture on the wall, the old black and white one from when the diner first opened. And there he was, same face, same suit, same haunted look in his eyes. "That's Eddie," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The original owner. He went missing 70 years ago." My mouth went dry. "They say he drowned," she continued. "Drove his car into the river one night after closing. But the thing is, they never found his body." A chill ran down my spine. That night, for the first time in 3 months, he didn't come in, and he never came back. But sometimes, when I'm closing up, when the diner is quiet and the only sound is the hum of the neon sign outside, I hear something. A faint, rhythmic drip. Drip, 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 always coming from that same booth. And if I listen too long, if I let the silence stretch just a little too far, I swear I hear something else. The sound of wet fingers sliding across a laminated menu. Story 2. I got the job at Delacroix Steakhouse in New Orleans because I needed fast cash. Rent was late, my fridge was empty, and this place paid well. It had that old world charm, dark wood panels, dim chandeliers, and waiters in pressed white shirts. The kind of place where the rich drank too much red wine and never checked the bill. I started on a Monday. By Wednesday, I noticed something off. Booth 17. It sat in the far corner, half hidden by a velvet curtain. The kind of booth couples might request for a private anniversary dinner. But nobody sat there. Ever. The hostess, a tired-looking woman named Marie, warned me on my first night. "Don't seat anyone there late at night," she said, slipping a menu into my hands. "And whatever you do, don't sit in it yourself." I made a joke about it. Something dumb, like, "What? Is it haunted?" But she didn't laugh. Just pursed her lips and walked off. I chalked it up to New Orleans superstition. People around here love their ghosts. Every bar has a story. Every building has a spirit. But Booth 17 was different. The first time I noticed it, I was carrying a tray of dirty glasses to the kitchen. I passed the booth and heard voices. Faint, almost like radio static. I stopped, turned my head slightly. It sounded like whispering. Not one voice, two. A man and a woman, speaking fast and low, like they didn't want to be overheard. I peeked behind the curtain. The booth was empty. The voices stopped. I exhaled, shook my head, and hurried back to the kitchen. Maybe the long shifts were getting to me. Maybe I was just tired. But it happened again and again. Every time I walked past Booth 17, I heard them. The same hushed whispers, too low to make out the words. The others noticed too. One night, after closing, I asked the bartender, Leo, about it. He was an older guy, been working there for years. He poured himself a whiskey, took a long sip, and said, "Mobster got whacked there back in the 20s. I smirked. "You serious?" He nodded. "Yup. Name was Victor Vinny Morello. Ran numbers for the wrong people, pissed someone off, got shot right in that seat. Broad daylight. People were eating their damn steaks when it happened. But no one saw nothing, Dot. I frowned. And the whispers? Leo shrugged. They say he died arguing with someone. A woman. Nobody knows who. But people still hear him talking. I wanted to laugh. A ghost. Arguing with his killer for eternity. Sounded like something out of a bad horror movie. But then came the night I made the mistake. It was after closing. Just me and Marie finishing up the register. The dining room was dark, except for the dim glow from the bar. I walked past booth 17, and the whispers started again. I stopped. This time, they were clearer. A man's voice. Angry. Urgent. A woman's voice. Desperate. Pleading. My skin went cold. Screw it, I thought. I'd had enough of this crap. I sat down in the booth. The second I did, a deep chill crawled over me, like stepping into a freezer. My breath came out in a fog. And then, silence. The whispers stopped. The air grew heavy. Thick, like something unseen was pressing against my chest. I tried to move. I couldn't. And then, right next to my ear, so close I could feel cold breath against my skin, a voice. Get out. I jumped up so fast I knocked over the salt shaker. My heart hammered in my chest. The moment I was out of the booth, the cold vanished. The room was warm again, and the whispering started back up. This time, laughing. Low, raspy laughter, just under the sound of the ceiling fan. Marie found me standing there, pale as hell, staring at the booth. She didn't ask what happened. She already knew. You sat down, didn't you? I swallowed, nodded. Marie sighed, rubbing her temples. Damn fool. She didn't explain further. She didn't need to. I never went near booth 17 again. But every so often, I'd see a new server walk past it, their face suddenly confused, like they'd just heard something. They'd stop, listen, shake their head, and walk away. And I knew he was still talking. Story 3. I've worked a lot of crappy jobs in my life, but this one wasn't so bad. The pay was garbage, sure, and the grease from the fryers made my clothes stink like old oil. But it was quiet, peaceful even, the kind of place where the regulars all knew each other, where the same old men came in every Friday night to argue about baseball, and where if I played my cards right, I could take home a free pizza at the end of my shift. The owner, a guy named Don, had been running the place since the early 80s. It was one of those hole-in-the-wall pizzerias that never really changed, with cracked vinyl booths and a neon sign in the window that buzzed when it rained. The walls were covered in yellowing newspaper clippings from back when the town still cared about local businesses. It had charm, and as I learned one night, it had something else too. That night, I was working the late shift with Alex, the only other guy crazy enough to take these hours. He was in the back, scraping burnt cheese off the oven racks, while I manned the front counter, trying to keep myself awake. It was one of those nights where time moves slow, the kind where the second hand on the clock seemed to stick between ticks. I was counting down the minutes to closing when the phone rang. I grabbed it before the first ring even finished, more out of boredom than anything else. Tony's Pizza, I said. Pick up or delivery? At first, there was nothing but static. Then a voice. Low, deep, like someone speaking through a mouthful of gravel. Large pepperoni, extra crispy, no cut. I waited for a moment, expecting more. An address maybe, A name. Okay, I said. That'll be 15 minutes. Nothing. Just silence. And then click. I stared at the phone for a second before shrugging it off. Probably just some weirdo. We got our fair share of those. I punched in the order and went back to watching the clock. 10 minutes later, the phone rang again. I picked up, already irritated. Tony's Pizza, and then, in that same deep, crackling voice, large pepperoni, extra crispy, no cut. I froze. The exact same words, the exact same tone. This time, the voice felt closer. Not like it was coming through the phone, but like it was right behind me. I turned around so fast, I nearly knocked over the napkin dispenser. The restaurant was empty. The chairs were flipped onto the tables, the floor freshly mopped, and the neon sign in the window cast a sickly red glow over the room. There was no one there. My skin prickled. Slowly, I lowered the phone. From the kitchen, Alex called out, "Dude, you okay?" I forced a laugh, shaking off the unease. "Yeah, just a weird call." Alex didn't respond, already back to scraping. I hung up and checked the order screen. The first ticket was still there, and now there was a second one, both identical. That's when the phone rang a third time. I didn't want to answer it. Every nerve in my body was screaming at me to let it ring, to turn off the lights, lock the doors, and go home. But my hand moved on its own, lifting the receiver to my ear. The line was silent, then breathing, slow, heavy. Not the kind of breathing you hear when someone's winded. Not like someone had just run up a flight of stairs. No, this was something else. Something wrong. The breath came in deep, rattling gulps. Wet, like whoever was on the other end was struggling to pull air through a throat full of water. I dropped the phone. The receiver swung wildly on its cord, hitting the counter with a hollow clack. Jesus, man. Alex was suddenly beside me. "What the hell's wrong with you?" I stared at the phone, my heart hammering in my chest. The dial tone buzzed in the empty restaurant. I don't know," I stammered. "I keep getting the same call. Same guy. Same order. But no address. No name. Just..." I swallowed hard. Just breathing. I expected Alex to laugh, to tell me I was being an idiot, that I was freaking out over some prank call. But instead, his face lost all color. "Dude," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "That's our first ever order." My stomach dropped. "What?" Alex looked around, like he was afraid someone might be listening. Then he leaned in. "The owner told me about it once," he said. "Back in the 80s, opening night, first call we ever got. Some guy ordered a large pepperoni, extra crispy, no cut, just like that. Only the driver got lost. By the time he found the address, the guy was already dead. They found him in his living room, TV still on, phone still in his hand." My mouth went dry. "No way," I said. Alex nodded. "Swear to God, the owner never put the order in the system. Said it didn't feel right, taking money from a dead guy. But get this, every couple of years the call comes in again. Always right before closing. Always the same order. And when we check the system..." Alex turned the screen toward me. The order ticket was gone, like it had never existed. I didn't sleep that night. I kept hearing it. That breathing. Thick. Wet. Wrong. And now, every time I hear a phone ring, I wonder if he's still waiting for his pizza.